Imagine a young boy standing in a tiny living room, his father watching him with an intense gaze. The boy's hands tremble, but as soon as he opens his mouth, a voice unlike any other fills the room. A voice so pure, so powerful, it sends shivers down spines. That boy was Michael Jackson. He wasn't born a king. He wasn't destined for an easy life. He had to fight, sacrifice, and endure unimaginable pressure to become the king of pop. But his journey was anything but smooth. How did he rise from a poor family in Indiana to become the most famous musician in the world? What price did he pay for his success? And what was hidden behind the glittering stage lights? Stay with me, because in this episode, we will uncover the real story of Michael Jackson's rise to stardom, a story of talent, pain, and genius. Michael was born on August 29, 1958, in Gary, Indiana, the seventh of 9 children in the Jackson family. His father, Joe Jackson, was a steelworker, but his real dream was to turn his children into music stars. The Jackson home was always filled with music, but it wasn't a place of warmth. Joe was a strict, sometimes even cruel, disciplinarian. Michael and his brothers would rehearse for hours every single day. If they made a mistake, Joe wouldn't hesitate to punish them. The pressure was immense, but it forged Michael into a performer unlike any other. Even at 5 years old, Michael was different. His voice had an emotional depth that most grown singers could never reach. He wasn't just a child performer. He was a star in the making. By the time he was 6, he became the lead singer of the Jackson 5, alongside his brothers. And in 1969, their big break came. Motown, the biggest record label in R&B music, signed the Jackson 5. Suddenly, these kids from a working-class neighborhood were in the same league as the Temptations and Marvin Gaye. Their first single, I Want You Back, was an instant hit, and it was only the beginning. They followed it up with Obese, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There. One hit after another. Their songs climbed to number 1 on the Billboard charts. Michael became the heart of the group. Audiences adored him. His voice, his charisma, his energy. He was born for the stage. But even as the Jackson 5 conquered the charts, Michael had bigger dreams. He wanted to break free from the group and create his own music. That moment came in 1979. At just 21 years old, Michael released his first grown-up solo album, Off the Wall. It was a masterpiece. He worked with legendary producer Quincy Jones, blending pop, R&B, and disco like no one had done before. The result? 5 million copies sold. But here's the thing about Michael Jackson. He was never satisfied. He didn't just want success, he wanted to change the game. So he locked himself in the studio, pushed himself to the limit, and in 1982, he released an album that would change music forever. That album was Thriller. No one was prepared for what happened next. Thriller wasn't just an album, it was a cultural revolution. It had 7 hit singles, including Billie Jean, Beat It, and of course Thriller. It became the best-selling album of all time. Over 66 million copies sold. No artist before or after has ever come close. But it wasn't just about the music. It was about what Michael did with it. In 1983, during a performance of Billie Jean on the Motown 25 special, Michael introduced the world to a move that would become his signature, the Moonwalk. One moment, he was dancing like any other performer. The next, he seemed to glide backward effortlessly, defying gravity. That moment cemented him as a legend. And then came the Thriller music video. Before Michael, music videos were just simple recordings of artists singing. But Michael, he made a 14-minute cinematic masterpiece. It had a storyline, special effects, professional choreography, things that no one had done before. It changed the way artists made music videos forever. MTV, which had mostly ignored black artists before, had no choice but to play it. And suddenly, Michael wasn't just a pop star. He was the biggest artist in the world. He had the fame, the fortune, the adoration of millions. But with that level of success came a heavy price. Even at the height of his career, Michael struggled with his own identity. He had spent his childhood under his father's strict rule, never really living like a normal kid. Now, as an adult, he seemed to be searching for the childhood he never had. He built Neverland Ranch, a massive estate filled with amusement park rides, animals, and everything a child could dream of. He surrounded himself with kids, believing that they were the only ones who truly understood him. But the world didn't understand. The media turned on him. The way he looked started to change. His skin became lighter. His nose became thinner. Speculation ran wild. People whispered about plastic surgeries, skin conditions, and his obsession with looking different. Michael said he had a disease called vitiligo, which caused his skin to lose pigment. But the rumors never stopped. Then, the accusations began. In 1993, a 13-year-old boy accused Michael of abuse. The case never went to trial. Michael settled out of court, but the damage was done. The media painted him as a monster. Despite it all, he kept making music. His 1995 album, History, included powerful songs like They Don't Care About Us, where he lashed out at the media for their treatment of him. But the scrutiny never went away. In 2005, he was accused again. This time, he fought in court. After a highly publicized trial, he was found not guilty. But his career was never the same. He withdrew from the public eye. He was still the king of pop, but the world had turned its back on him. Then, in 2009, he made a decision. He would come back. He would prove that he was still the greatest performer alive. This Is It was supposed to be his grand return. A massive world tour, his final bow. He rehearsed endlessly, pushed his body to the limit, and then, on June 25th, 2009, the unthinkable happened. Michael Jackson, the man who had defined pop music for decades, was gone. The world stopped. Fans flooded the streets. His music soared back to the top of the charts. He was no longer just a pop star. He was a myth. But his legacy? It never faded. His music, his dance moves, his influence, they live on. Every artist today, from Beyoncé to The Weeknd, carries a piece of Michael in their performances. He wasn't perfect. He was complex, a genius, a troubled soul, a man who changed the world but could never escape his own demons. So let me ask you, what do you remember most about Michael Jackson? His music, his performances, his controversies. Let's keep this legend story alive. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories, because legends never die.